We like to live on the edge sometimes, eh? Sometimes we like to just push the limits. For the sake of an adrenaline rush, we'll do things that are maybe a little bit dangerous and we'll take some risks that we wouldn't normally take. What I want you to do is in your small groups, talk about a time that you took a risk or you did something dangerous just for the sake of the adrenaline rush. Talk about it in your groups and then we'll come back. Alright, junior youth, so what we're doing right now is we are continuing our series called Free People. And in this series, essentially what we're talking about is this idea of what does it mean for us to live in freedom? What does freedom actually mean? Now, oftentimes when people think about this idea of freedom, they think it means that you're able to do whatever you want. It means having no restrictions. It means being able to make whatever choices that you want to make. It means having no limits. But what I want to suggest for us today is that actually isn't the idea of freedom. When it talks about freedom in the Bible, that's not the definition that we're given. What we're going to do is we're going to read a passage from the book of Proverbs. Proverbs chapter 27 verse 12. This is what it says. The prudent see danger and take refuge, but the simple keep going and pay the penalty. What I want you to do is get your Bibles out. You're going to talk about this in your small groups. I want you to discuss what are some dangers in life that they might actually be talking about in this passage. What are some things that we should avoid? What are some risks that maybe we shouldn't take? Talk about that in your small groups and then we'll come back. So in this passage, we read the wise words of King Solomon. And basically in this passage, he contrasts two different types of people. There's wise people and there's unwise people. Or there's prudent people and then there's those who are simple. Now, according to King Solomon, according to this passage, when we think of a wise person will likely see how a situation could go wrong before it actually takes place. A wise person will be able to sense a toxic relationship before they end up getting hurt. A wise person will identify a bad influence before they end up getting influenced by them. A wise person will see how their actions could ultimately lead to regret and decides to not act on them before they actually take place. And in contrast, there are foolish people, and a foolish person is going to not see the warning signs in certain situations, and even if they do, they're going to disregard them. A foolish person is eventually going to hurt themselves or hurt other people. A foolish person is someone that's going to probably end up with regret that they're going to hold on to for years. And a foolish person is very likely to damage relationships that they very much care about. So the question that I have for you tonight is, do you want to be considered a wise person or do you want to be considered a foolish person? What I want to do is I want to share with you a story of someone that I knew while in high school and made some pretty poor decisions, made some very foolish decisions. What happened was that this individual, what they did was that they started hanging out with people that didn't necessarily have his best interests in mind. So what happened was that he started to get influenced by them. And what happened was that he was making one small compromise after another. He started skipping school, and then he started getting involved in some criminal activity, experimenting with different substances. And eventually what happened was that these small decisions over and over and over again led this individual to a path that they never thought they'd ever go. And the thing is that this person started to become someone that they never thought they'd ever be. They were living a life of destruction, and essentially this person, the habits and the choices that they were making, not only did it harm themselves, but it was harming the people around them. It harmed this person's family, it harmed their friends, and essentially what happened was that this person was living a life that they never thought they'd ever live. This individual wasn't willing to listen to wise counsel. This individual wasn't willing to see the fault in their own ways. And essentially what happened was that there was years that this person ultimately regretted based on the decisions that they had made. And this person that I'm talking about isn't someone that I knew externally, but this person was actually me. And when I look at my own life, I have come to learn and realize that the choices that I make, especially the small ones, are going to lead you in a direction that you may or may not want to go. It's by the grace of God that, God got a hold of my life and I chose to follow him, and I'm choosing to follow him. But the reality is that a lot of my friends that I actually knew throughout high school that were making these poor decisions together, a lot of them have actually passed away. A lot of them, based on the choices that they were making, ultimately led to an ultimate destruction that they couldn't repair from. One of my friends told me in conversation that a smart person learns from their mistakes, but a wise person learns from other people's mistakes. And I think when it comes to life, we have to realize that the choices we make, we have to choose to live wisely. We can't choose to live foolishly. So when it comes to this idea of freedom, to live in true freedom is to actually live with wisdom, to make decisions that are going to allow you to flourish, that are actually going to give you life. And we talked about at the beginning of this whole conversation, this idea of risk, this idea of living on the edge. Now, when it comes to life, this idea of risk isn't necessarily a bad thing, but what are we risking our lives for? Are we putting ourselves out there in order to get closer to Jesus or to lead others closer to Jesus? Or are we making decisions and taking risks that are ultimately leading to our destruction or leading to the destruction of others? There's this quote that I want to read to you guys. It's a quote that really stood out to me, and I think it really sums up this idea perfectly, and this is what it says. I want a lifetime of holy moments. Every day I want to be in dangerous proximity to Jesus. I long for a life that explodes with meaning and is filled with adventure, wonder, risk, and danger. I long for a faith that is gloriously treacherous. I want to be with Jesus, not knowing whether to cry or to laugh. What I want us to do is, in your small groups, I want you to take some time to reflect. What kind of life are you living right now? What kind of choices are you making right now? Are the choices that you're making, are they leading you towards Christ and towards a full life? Or are you starting to make choices that might seem like little compromises right now, but might end up leading you to a life that you might not actually want to live? They might lead you to a destination that you don't actually want to go. So take some time, talk about this in your small groups, and we'll see you guys again next week. Take care.